All right, well, we are going to rock and roll. Who is so excited for an hour of Radon? Me. Me. Thank you. I appreciate the enthusiasm. Let's get excited about some Radon. My name is Kimmy McBurney. Today I'm with Carolina Radon. You may know me from home inspection fame, right? But today I'm here to talk all about Radon and our company, Carolina Radon. So specifically, radon gas, impact on health, and really trying to tie it into why you guys as real estate professionals need to know about it and what you need to know about it. So let's get rocking and rolling. First off, now that he put a whole bite of food in his mouth, this lovely, lovely meal is thanks to Jason Sherbar. I like to put my money background. He is with Rocket Mortgage, so I'm going to allow him to tell you guys a little bit about himself, and then we're going to get rolling.
All right, so I know a lot of you guys, but my name is Jason. I'm from Rocket Mortgage. I'm the local guy from Rocket in Asheville. So about 3.5 years ago, almost 4 years ago, Rocket decided to change the way we do business. I used to do all the VIP relocations and Schwab clients who have multi-million. And they said they wanted to have local people on the ground. So I was one of 4 people selected at Rocket out of 15,000 bankers to start this new program. I moved me, my wife, my kids from Michigan down to North Carolina. We live in Mills River to be our local loan officer. At that time, we had 4 of us. Now we're up to about 400 people nationwide, local and communities, which is nice. And they keep on giving us more and more. Recently, we just got a bank statement loan, which I just locked somebody in at a 6.875 for a bank statement loan. Is incredible. He bought a house 6 months ago with a different lender that's 10.5. So we just got him to a 6.75 or 875 on our refi. So just kind of cool to have different programs like that. We can do condo tells now. We can do, we have so many different programs. We're going to have DSCR in the next month or two. We're just getting tons of different programs.
I have a specific question because I know rates. Mm-hmm. Rumor has it, because I feel like everyone associates the Fed cuts with mortgage rates, but what's actually happening with mortgage rates?
All right. So you guys all know who Apple is, right?
Yeah.
The company. So think of Apple as like the Fed, okay? When Apple says, hey, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to release, the iPhone 27, right? Or whatever number they're
on 17.
Yeah. So like, I just bought one 6 months ago. I think it was
like 12. A 12, yeah.
So at 17, when they announced they're going to do that phone, that's when the stock price goes up, right? Mm. When they actually release the phone, the stock price isn't going to actually go up at that time. It's when the phone is announced is when it's going to go up. Same thing happens with mortgage rates. So when the Fed announced, when you hear coming up to the Fed meeting, there's a 94% chance that rates are going to get cut. Guess what? Rates are already down, right? So it's kind of like you say, buy with the news, sell with the reports is what the thing is. The reports came out, and guess what's happened since the Fed cut the rates? Rates have actually gone up, right? So one thing I do for all my past clients, we service the book, is I keep them in the know of what's going on with the rates. We send out emails that are usually every 1 to 2 weeks. They give a market update and everything. If you guys want to be on that, tell what's going on with the market, let me know. We can send those out.
And the QR code.
Yeah, or just shoot me a text. That'll take you, give me my cell phone number and everything like that. Yeah, but that's kind of what's been going on with the rates. I'm expecting 2 more rate cuts by the end of the year. Rates should come down a little bit. Jerome Powell his term is up in May. If you like Trump, you don't like Trump, it doesn't really matter. Trump is going to put his guy in when Jay Powell gets out. And when Trump's guy gets in there, he's going to do what Trump wants him, and Trump's wanting him to lower rates. So come next May, there's going to be a huge boom, purchase and refinance, and it's going to be good for all of us. So.
Well, thank you. Oh, quick question.
Quick question. Are anybody buying down points? Is that still a thing, or how much does it cost for a point?
So 1 point is 1% of your loan, right? Points are not linear. So if you say the rate was 6.5 today, right?
Okay.
It's if you go to 6.375, it might be 0.125 points, which is $125 for every 100,000. But if you go to 6.25, it might be 2 points, right? So it's not a linear drop. It's kind of depends, and that's like, so what we do is we look at like different areas and how long it's going to take to recoup those rents, right? So like, some people that are buying right now, think of a tier tower, right? The lower your rate, the higher the cost. The higher the rate, the lower the cost. So you have a sweet spot in the middle, which is 0 points, which is gonna be no points, but every lender is gonna have their different origination. Like SCCU charges 1%, we charge 1,250, depending on whatever thing it is, right? So like, that's gonna be your middle point. Now, from there, you can go to a lower rate, so maybe you went to a 6%, it might cost you 1 point, which is like $1,000 for every $100,000 you borrow, right? Right? So, or if it's like, so if it's a $500,000 loan, it'd be $5,000 for 1 point, right? Now you have the other opposite end where you can go and say, instead of a 6.5, you can go to a 7.1, right? And say at a 7.1, I might be able to give you $6,000 or $7,000 towards your closing costs, right? So that way you're not spending any equity or any of your money because you know their rates are gonna go down, right? If you can't get the seller concessions, it makes it so they only have to put that 1% down anyways, or 3% down, depending on the program you put. We have a 1% down conventional with a 2% grant we give them, so that's what a lot of people are using right now. But it makes it so they put minimal out of pocket, so that way they can, when they refinance, they can either pay the closing costs at that time, or like me personally, what I do is I always take that slightly higher interest rate, and as it comes down, I'll refinance 4 or 5 times to get to the bottom, and it won't cost me a dime, right? I won't lose any equity, right? So there's different ways to do it, but personally, that's how I do it.
All right, good, thank you very much.
No problem.
Thanks, Jason.
Any other questions before?
Cool. Jason's gonna stick around. Please do scan the QR code. Jason is fantastic. He is one of the most responsive people you will ever meet. So that's a really big benefit when dealing with mortgage lenders. So before I tell you guys about us, I want to introduce one other visitor, Philip Gibson in the back. I just had the pleasure of meeting. He is with the North Carolina, Radon program it's mentioned here. Is that the correct way to say it?
It is.
Cool. So we're kind of just giving a little snapshot in about an hour, but if you guys have further questions, like I said, he works with the state and he also teaches a 4-hour radon course. So if there's just not enough join your day from today, I personally will be signing up. I think it's fantastic. So he's a great resource and he has some informational sheets about what they do. So feel free to take those. The one he was educating me, my favorite one I'm gonna borrow. Since 2010, only 12% of homes in Buncombe County have been estimated to have been tested. 12%, that's crazy. So we're here to educate you guys so you can educate your home buyers on getting tested. So again, we are Carolina Radon. So actually a bit of a newer company, but I'll introduce you guys to the founding members who bring years and years of experience. Here, our website's Carolina Radon, lots of resources there. But I'm gonna ask you guys to do me a favor. If you can pull out your phones, if you guys are on Instagram preferably or Facebook, I would love for you guys to find our account. So on Instagram, we are Asheville Radon Mitigation. Give us a follow. I post every single weekday. The reason I like you guys to give us a follow is because if you're here educating yourself on radon, that's what we do every single day on our channel. We share facts, tips, fun stuff, videos from the field, videos from install, different things where we can educate our clients. So please give us a follow. That's us. So again, this is our team. I mentioned it because we are a newer corporation per se, a newer company, but we bring years and years of experience. Zeke Seaton on the left, him and Tyler actually co-own another company, Solid Arm Solutions. They came from the crawl space moisture mitigation world, which kind of goes hand in hand with radon. Tyler in the middle actually came from another company who did radon mitigation. He's been doing it for years and years. So he has literally seen thousands and thousands of basements and crawl spaces in Western North Carolina. So he brings our technical knowledge. He also holds our certifications for radon. And then myself. So you guys know me, I come from the home inspection world, but obviously intimately familiar with radon testing and stuff like that. And we partnered with a larger company. It's not a franchise, but for lack of a better word, franchise, National Radon Defense. So really backed by a company who's been doing this for a long time. So bringing you guys all the radon fun facts. That's us. And all right, let's get in the nitty gritty. What are we going to learn today? What is radon? How does radon enter a house? What are the health issues? How do you test? How do you fix? What are some of the standards? And then we'll open it up for questions at the end for all the fun facts. So what is radon? So in personally educating myself about radon, kind of also objection handling, right? Because we all know those people who may not put so much weight in the theory of radon or aren't familiar or just unaware of radon. So radon was actually discovered, I believe, in the late 1800s as an element itself. But I love this part of it, where when did it kind of become more well known in our sphere? So in 1984, it's called the Watrous incident at a power plant. Essentially, a power plant worker triggered the radon detectors upon entering the site because his home had such high concentrations of radon that it was in his being. So he set off these radon detectors. So that really kind of spurred the more current information and studies we have. So again, this was, baffled scientists that kind of spurred this. His home had levels over 2,700 picocuries per liter. The measure of action level for the EPA is 4, right? So I believe he was in the Northeast. So the Northeast, you'll see a map later on that kind of has some radon levels. But anyways, the thing about radon, which is cool, is radon is 100% treatable. So mitigation systems can address even homes with that high of radon. But luckily, here in Western North Carolina, we're not quite that high. They're really cool kind of story. So what is radon? So again, radon is a radioactive gas that's naturally emitted by the Earth's surface. So radioactive, colorless, odorless, tasteless. It's a noble gas and it has a 3.8-day half-life. Never thought you'd see the element table ever again, did you? It's back. So radon is actually part of a decay process. So it's come from the uranium that's in the soil and it's broken down by the time it makes it to the Earth's surface. I'm not going to read all those, but you guys get the point. So again, dangerous, right? So a lot of people, and we'll get more into this in a minute, but actually it's not the radon gas that's harmful. It's the actual breakdown of the radon decay product, which becomes something that can be ingested or inhaled, and that's the contributing cause of lung cancer. So it's not actually the radon gas itself, but that's what we can measure to kind of give us an idea of what's in your stuff. So how does radon enter our home? So let's get some audience participation. What do you guys think? How does radon get in your house?
From the ground.
From the ground. But how does it? So I think that's the common misconception. When people start to learn about radon, they're like, well, wait, it's everywhere? Why isn't it a concern when I'm walking my dog at the park? Why wouldn't it be a concern
The
then?
water has to release and burn it.
A little bit, but it's more so the dissipation, right? It's not a concern because it's not being trapped. That radon decay is not being trapped and you're not sitting there inhaling it. So again, our homes or any building structure, actually, commercial buildings pose the same risks that radon can enter a structure. So this lag is going to kill me. Okay, so radon travels from deep in the earth, right? Here's that breakdown from uranium to radium to radon. And as you can see, the radon's working its way up to the home. So here's more specifically what's happening, right? And here's some illustrations. So if you are on a basement, it can come in through the cracks. This is also a sump pump pit. It can come through like a sump pump pit or any really penetration in the ground. We've got cracks in the walls that it can come through. And then it's going to kind of just make its way up through any penetration. Crawl space is also a concern. I love to address this with real estate agents. Radon does not discriminate. Doesn't care if you have a basement, doesn't care if you have a crawl space, doesn't care if it's a finished basement, unfinished basement. It's going to obviously affect the levels. But again, I too often have heard, oh, you don't need to get a test, we're on a crawl space. Absolutely not. There is never any situation where you wouldn't need a test. Also, sometimes I'll hear, oh, they've got a mitigation system, you don't need a test. False. Unfortunately, mitigation systems don't always work. Yes.
That's what happened in my house. We had a mitigation system.
Yes.
And we did the test, they found it, the fan was bad, even though it heard it running,
Yeah.
it wasn't running correctly, so we had to replace the fan.
Yeah, or like the other day, we actually had a property manager call us, and because you read the manometer, which is that U-shaped gauge we've all probably seen on the side of a radon stack, and it was level, the liquid was level, meaning it wasn't working. There was a squirrel who had taken up permanent residence in the radon fan, right? So the point is, they don't always work, they stop working, they're not efficient. Most commercially available radon fans carry a warranty of 10 years, but still, right, they don't work forever. Or I've had so many occurrences as a home inspector. Oh, we unplugged that. That was loud. Oh, that, I was like, oh, well, that's gonna get you. So, or they become unplugged, or the breaker has failed because they should be on a dedicated circuit, all the things, right? So even if there's a radon mitigation system, we want to verify that it's working, because if I see a radon mitigation system, that tells me that at some point there was a radon issue, right? There was cause for concern. So as a real estate professional, absolutely recommend that you always recommend testing to your client, no matter the circumstances of the home or previous tests. It's always good to kind of have that for your own knowledge. So entry point. So again, kind of the same illustration, but it's a little less colorful, so it's a little easier to read. Radon is also in the water supply. So like you mentioned, it's not the direct cause and effect, but there is presence of radon in water. But again, it can come from anything: floor drains, well pipings, sump pumps, slab joints, porous cinder block, cracks in the foundation. Really, it's everywhere, and there's plenty of reasons that it can make its way into your home. And again, convert to that radon decay product, and that's what we're concerned about, because that gets trapped in your home, ventilated in your air system, stuff like that. Yes.
How do you, like if it's in the water, the radon?
Yes.
You come.
I feel like I should teach a whole hour on radon in water. So from my understanding and my education, it's not as much of a concern because, like I said, it's not having that opportunity to become that radon decay product. Also, it's dispersed, same. It's also agitated in the plumbing system, but we do offer tests of radon in water. So if that is a particular concern for somebody, it can also be tested, and has different mitigation methods. But again, the most common concern for radon would be the radon in the air, essentially, as opposed to the water.
Do the levels like change throughout the day or over a week, or is it kind of just consistent?
Minute by minute. Great question. Oh, I'm going to add that slide. So when we test for radon as radon professionals, we have continuous radon monitors. They test for 48 hours minimum. And these are the professional monitors, so it's really cool, but we get a reading every hour. So we can see the fluctuation, and that's why we go off the average. So you're looking for a 4.0 average, but meaning it can, there's definitely peaks and valleys, and it's really cool to see. It can also go up and down with the conditions of the building. If someone's left the doors open for half a day, you'll definitely see the impact, or the humidity levels. The weather outside can affect a radon reading, the barometric pressure. So absolutely, it goes up and down, fluctuates with the seasons. So always important to get at least that 48-hour snapshot to give you that average reading. But absolutely, good question. So what are the health issues? Why do we care about radon, right? Because it does have health issues. So again, here's what we're looking at, right? The inhalation of radon decay products is the concern, and that's what's going to kind of cause those issues with lung cancer. So again, it's kind of to dispel that popular belief that it's not actually the radon gas itself, but it's this decay product that really causes issues. So health risks. So radon causes 15% of all lung cancers. It is the second leading cause of lung cancer, second only to obviously smoking cigarettes. So every 1 picocurie liter of radon exposure is equivalent to smoking 2.5 cigarettes per day. Every 25 minutes, someone in the US dies from radon-induced lung cancer. Again, 4.0 is our EPA action level, but that's equivalent to 200 chest x-rays. Lung cancer kills more Americans than breast, prostate, and colon cancer combined, which I'll share some statistics in a bit as well that are kind of staggering in regards to the numbers. So EPA recommendations. So again, radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer in the US. All homes should be tested again. Radon does not discriminate. Again, there is no standard that I've come across. Even if someone has a consumer grade continuous radon monitor. So there are products I recommend. So the professional testing we go through has a continuous monitor. It's almost like the CO2 detectors or smoke detectors. You can have a continuous monitor, but unfortunately those aren't the same as relying on a professional test because our machines are calibrated. Those can't be calibrated. Either way, they're great to kind of raise the red flag and get your average reading, but definitely still want to rely on professional testing. So again, the EPA action level is set at 4, but actually if you read the fine print, they do actually recommend remediation between 2 and 4, because again, if you're at a 2 average, there's a chance that you're going to be going above that 4, and really you're only getting that 48-hour snapshot. So a lot of times we would recommend someone consider it even if they're above a 2. So again, even like they said, even below a 4, there can still be a risk. There is actually really no safe level of radon. It's more so thinking about an achievable level. Most mitigation systems, you want to bring it to at least a 2 or hopefully slightly below. Unfortunately, 0 is usually, it's not attainable. But again, bringing it to a safe level that can be reducing the concern is our utmost goal. So again, so here's kind of stacking it up against some other things, right? So it's always interesting to me when people aren't familiar with radon, but you hear people all the time talking about pesticides or toxins or pollutants or, you know, different things like that. So really radon as an impact, as an overall impact of estimated annual cancer deaths, it really trumps most of the other pollutants that most people are concerned about. And deaths per year. So again, so radon outranks drunk driving, drownings, fires, airline crashes. So again, kind of putting it into perspective that it is definitely a real concern that we should all be aware of. So this is cancer mortality rates from 2009. Probably should update this at some point, but you know, here we are. So lung and bronchitis is way up there. Like I said, trumping colon cancers, breast cancers, pancreas, prostate. So again, just kind of illustrating the importance of radon and radon detection. So, okay, all right, we're gonna take a journey back to the 1990s. I'm wheeling in the TV that came out on our field days. Oh, hold on. We're gonna try and navigate to YouTube. It is 6 minutes, bear with me, and I'm pretty sure it was made in the 1990s, but I think it's kind of a powerful illustration. Let's see.
My mom's mission for her dying wish literally was to get the word out about radon.
A simple radon test can help keep you and your family safe. I'm Mary Doman. As Commissioner of Public Safety, I know how vital it is to get the word out.
And I'm Dr. Ed Ellinger, Minnesota's Commissioner of Health. We're coming together to talk to you about radon, a major health risk that might be lurking inside your house.
It's hard to imagine, but at one time, a radioactive gas you can't see or smell came up from the ground and spread throughout this lovely Minnesota home. Barbara Nike and her 2 children, Jamie and Mitch, didn't know they were breathing in this deadly radon until Barbara couldn't shake a cough when she traveled to Scotland for Jamie's wedding.
You know, my mom was 58 when she started to, in the spring of 2009, notice that she had a cough and some wheezing. Didn't seem like much of a big deal, but it was just one of those things that didn't ever get better.
Tests would show Barbara, who did not smoke, had stage 4 lung cancer.
She was fit, she was healthy, she ate well, she didn't even have a doctor because she didn't have any health problems. And so we were just baffled by how she could have gotten lung cancer.
They went online and looked up lung cancer and non-smokers. When radon kept popping up, they ordered a test kit.
The radon levels in her house are 40 times what they should be. And at that point, that's when I 100% knew in my mind that that was the reason that my mom had lung cancer.
Radon causes lung cancer when a person breathes in the radioactive gas.
Something not a whole lot of people think about.
A health department brochure shows the many ways it can enter your home, including cracks in concrete slabs.
So many homes have a significant amount of risk in them.
The health department says 1 in 3 Minnesota homes has a radon level that could cause harm. The only way to know if your house has radon is to test. Winter is the best time because doors and windows are closed. You can order the kit through the health department for only $7. It looks like this. Just open it, record the day and time you start the test, then make a nice diamond shape and insert the enclosed sponge to keep it open. Inside the packet is specially formulated charcoal, which will absorb any radon it contacts.
So I'm going to hang it up here, just like so. And it's going to now be taking in the radon gas that's in this space, and it's going to be getting stuck in the charcoal. We're going to leave this test kit up for, we usually aim for about 3 to 5 days just to have a good window of time. And then at the end of that period, We'll come back down here. We'll take the test kit down. We'll take the sponge out. At this point, the sponge can be thrown away. And now there's an adhesive strip inside of this envelope, and we're just going to peel that away and seal it up nice and tight. You want to take note of the ending time and date on this test. You also will answer a few questions about the test, such as average temperature during the test. Once you've done that, you can clip off this plastic clip, and this is actually an addressed envelope.
The lab will test it at no additional charge and will mail you the results. If, like Barbara's family, your results show this deadly gas is seeping into your home, you can fix it.
So what you're looking at here is a piece of this home's radon mitigation system. So a radon mitigation system is put into a home basically to remove radon from that home. There are forces at play here that make radon, which lies below the soil of beneath the slab of a home, want to come up into the home. And what this system does on this pipe here is act as a path of least resistance for that radon. So it's easier for the radon to move up and into this pipe than it would be for the radon to come into the home.
The pipe continues up through the home and is attached to an inline radon fan in the attic that vents the gas out of the home through the roof. This tube, with colored liquid in it, acts as kind of a pressure gauge. It's located in the garage and shows the homeowner the system is working.
This is a perfect place because every time you walk in and out of the home, you're going to be able to see that this system is working.
Jamie and her husband Neil live in the home. Mitch visits often. They honor their mother by sharing her story.
This is what she wanted, you know, she wanted us to do these things and get the word out.
I tell people my story, and it's hard. But I just hope that when they hear it, that it scares them a little, scares them into thinking, gosh, why don't I just test it? Because it's so easy.
Jamie's story touches my heart. As Commissioner of Public Safety, I want all Minnesotans, every one of you, to know whether radon is putting you at risk.
Radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer in this country. More than 20,000 Americans die from lung cancer caused by radon each year. Don't be one of them. Go to the Minnesota Department of Health's website today and order a test kit, please.
Obviously, we're not Minnesotans, but it would absolutely apply and do the same. Phil, do you know, is there a free resource from North Carolina for testing?
Sorry, is there what?
Is there a free resource like that? Do they do free tests?
Free radon test kits every January. We have 8,000 that will distribute in January of 2026. It'll be through our website only. It's a first come, first serve.
Okay, awesome. Well, that is good to know because January is Radon Awareness Month, right? I assume that's why January. But know that the charcoal test kits that they shared can be easily found at Home Depot, Lowe's. Actually, the brand of the kit they were showing AirCheck. They have a facility in Mills River, so they're actually close by. But again, those charcoal kits are very reliable. They won't give you the range of data that you were talking about. They'll just give you the average, but absolutely reliable in doing and getting a test. So you guys encourage yourselves to take those tests, or your clients if they don't want to hire a professional for a professional radon test. I struggle most with kind of presenting this information. It seems a little doom and gloom. I'm not trying to use it as a scare tactic, but I think there is a reality of it. The company we work with, our national backing parent company, they're in Omaha, and we went and interned with them, and we were able to go in some home visits. And that's what I heard most often. I'm getting a test, or I'm getting it resolved because I knew somebody with lung cancer, right? So it's very real. And again, doesn't have to be scary. It's treatable. Like the message of the children is really just to get to test, right? To test, get the radon mitigation system, address it so that it's not a concern for your family. So hopefully that wasn't too doom and gloom for you guys. So how do you test for radon? So we've kind of seen a little bit of that. Nope, we've abandoned the clicker. I don't know. You'll never know. Secret. So again, radon is measured in picocuries per liter. I feel like I really have to slow down every time I say that. While no level of radon exposure is safe, like I said, the EPA action level is at 4.0. But again, if you order a test with us, if it comes anywhere between a 2 and a 4, we're also going to, per the EPA, recommend remediation. So, but definitely if the test is above that 4.0 average, you want to have it addressed. The World Health Organization actually sets their reference level at 2.7 picocuries per liter. So a little bit more stringent than we are here. This is from the World Health Organization handbook. Again, just reiterating the fact that they judge per the 2.7 picocuries per liter. All free world countries essentially have the same guidance level. So I love this illustration, especially for real estate professionals, right? Testing is the only way to know if you're at risk. Again, radon does not discriminate. It doesn't care if you're a crawl space foundation, old homes or new homes. Like, oh, this house was built in 1920. I don't need a radon test. I might actually argue that you probably need one more than anybody else. But it's actually, you know, a condition of the soil that where you are. So for example, this illustration, one house could be 20, the neighbor could be 1.5, the next neighbor could be 5. Right. So there's really no way to know for sure. So just because your neighbor tested and their test was whatever, 1.4 doesn't mean you're going to have the same luck. So definitely encourage all of your clients to test regardless. And actually one of my craziest real estate stories, I tell real estate professionals, again, I think it's your guys' responsibility to be good stewards. You're presenting the information, you're making recommendations to your clients. And also this applies a lot to sellers, right? I think too often we kind of put the onus on the buyer to take care of some of these things, but I've actually seen a $1.3 million deal fall through because of radon. There was actually a mitigation system that was not working. The potential buyers, unfortunately, was a cancer survivor, and they just had zero tolerance for kind of mitigating, right? So they had no trust in the system, but really that could have been easily addressed, right? If pre-listing they had the test, seen that the mitigation system wasn't working, 100% treatable, should have had it done. So again, if you don't want to lose a $1.3 million deal, we're going to pre-test for radon. So again, not everyone gets a pre-listing inspection, but I definitely always recommend a pre-listing radon test at minimum for your clients. So again, so here is the map, right? So some people, whenever someone comes to book a home inspection, for example, I ask, where are you from? I'm from Southern California. So radon was not on my radar, one, growing up, or just, it is present there. Radon's present everywhere, but here are the concentrations. Here's a map of North Carolina. So, as you guys can see, who lives in Logan County or Henderson County, right? You're like, ding, 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 right there. So this is why, in particular, we are wanting to bring this to people's attention, because in Western North Carolina, EPA level 1, which means basically on average, the chances of having radon in your home are elevated. The orange would be the second, the zone 2, and the yellow would be zone 3. But some fun facts, I was doing some research. The highest radon levels ever in North Carolina was in Wilkes County, 3,200 picocuries per liter. In Wake County, we've seen up to 257. Rumor has it, there's one other home inspector that said they've seen a 200 here. We personally have seen, it was a 100 and change, but just the other day we saw 32, right? So it's out there, it exists. So again, but not to be scary, right? It's absolutely treatable, but it is here. So this is a really powerful map to show people why here in Western North Carolina it is such a concern. And fun fact, actually natural disasters can have soil disruptions and movement. So it's important to test. The EPA recommends testing every 2 years, or after a renovation or a natural disaster. And what happened 1 year ago today? A natural disaster, right? So we want to make sure we're retesting and making sure that our homes remain safe. So again, so how can we test? So the short-term kits. So again, the long-term kits or the consumer grade long-term testing devices, I definitely still recommend, especially if you have somebody who has a concern, an ongoing concern, they want to keep an eye on the test. But short-term kits, like I said, those activated charcoal kits, you can get somewhere like Lowe's or Home Depot. Really easy to get, or that's what we actually leave behind. If we do a mitigation system, we're always going to leave you with that kit because you want to verify the system is working. And then long-term kits, like I said, there's long-term testing, and then professional, conveniently hidden by my screen sharing icon. But again, most home inspectors are doing radon testing. Like I said, we do it at our home inspection company. Those are 48-hour tests, but you can also order an extended version at 72 hours. Those are going to be the most reliable because, like I said, we have to have our machines calibrated. We have a certain protocol and whatnot. But again, I would really have a relatively high level of confidence in all of these testing methods. But if you want to have that professional test, that's definitely the way to go. So again, testing options, do it yourself. These are just some of the consumer grade available But again, those charcoal test kits, they mentioned Alpha Energy. Alpha Energy is actually one of the companies that makes and supports like Home Depot and Lowe's and manages all their testing for those. And so these are the professional tests. I'm sure you guys have seen these. Who's seen these in your home inspection? Yeah, so we use the machines on the top right. Currentium Pros, they're made by Air Things. But again, any professional grade machine that's professionally calibrated is going to do a really great job. And like she was mentioning, this is going to give you that data of ups and downs. And another thing we have to rely on as testing professionals, you guys have all seen the leave behind part. It's like, please do not leave the windows open. Please, you can use it under normal use. You can still operate the HVAC. You can still come and go, but please don't open all the windows and doors, which is really nice because our professional machines, they also track temperature and humidity, and they also detect motion. So if someone tries to move the machine, or like I said, if all the windows and doors are open for an extended period of time, I can usually tell how long they were open judging by the data that it gives us. So it's a really cool measure and gives you some data about your home and when the test was run. Yes.
You go.
Okay, I was just curious, so you said to retest every 2 years, is that if you have a mitigation system
No matter what.
already, or no matter what?
Yep.
Everyone should be testing every 2 years?
Correct.
Or after those significant changes?
Yes, absolutely. Great question.
So, you often hear like rain can from the results.
Yep.
I guess my question is it throw it off, like it makes it worse or it makes it less worse?
It makes it, okay, no, go ahead, ask your second question.
And then it rains a lot here. And you guys like do it, I think you said 48 hours, longer the better. So like if it does rain in that period, should you test again just to make sure,
Yeah, that's a great question. So for example, I was in Omaha when I was training and we had made some site visits, and in the 2 days prior, it had almost rained straight. What was really powerful was that 48-hour test. You could see the barometric pressure actually brings the readings down, and you could almost see, the timeline of like, oh, those were the days it was raining. And then after it was raining, it kind of came up. So again, we have to still rely on the average that test produced, but we can kind of say, hey, this indication towards the end of the storm, it did go quite higher. So you may want to test again. But again, in that same example, if it didn't spike or didn't peak, it's definitely, different recommendation. But again, you might want to retest if there happened to be a storm the whole
I
time.
guess I'm talking from the perspective like I go to Home Depot, like I do the charcoal thing.
Yeah.
Like a home test thing.
Yeah, I would think so. I'm not, Philip, while you're here, what's your recommendation? Yeah.
Right, so if we have a severe weather event, your testing period per standards should be no less than 4 days.
Okay.
If you utilize a test kit, that is a short-term test kit, that kit's only good for a minimum of 3 days, up to 7 days. There's also issues with mailing, so if you have a kit that you're using, don't use it past 5 days because it takes a couple of days to get to the lab. And I'm seeing a lot of error statements coming back from people who use a kit. The lab can't analyze it because it takes too long to get to them. The point is that for the severe weather that you test for no less than 4 days. The problem with that as real estate brokers, which I'm also a bit, by the way, is that most professionals who are doing testing don't want to leave it 4 days. Either that or they don't want the cost because they're placing a device there for that they could use at another place.
Sure.
Right? So just a heads up on that.
Yeah. But a fun fact, so our machines, for example, so we do run a calculated 48-hour test. So we set the machine and we set a timer for 48 hours, but our machines are always continuously gathering data. So you guys can always ask for a larger data set if you wanted as well. But agreed, we usually efficiently pick them up on the 48 hours or shortly thereafter. But I like that. I'll definitely add that 4 days.
This is kind of a comment and a question at the same time on the periphery. Green belt homes. In order to qualify as a green belt home, there's all kinds of qualifications, but one of them is that radon is not an issue. In other words, I guess part of the question side is, in order for a home to be qualified as a green belt home, does it need a radon mitigation system, or maybe you can see where I'm going with my question.
I can, and I'm going to answer, and then I can allow Phil. I'm going to attempt, and then he can fact check me. So green-built homes, so I come from construction, so sometimes green-built homes, it depends on the qualifications of the program. Sometimes it's the type of materials being used, sometimes it's a certain percentage of recycled materials. I will say new construction in general, a lot of the builders are moving towards voluntarily installing passive systems, right? They're gonna rough in that radon system. They won't necessarily put a fan on it to make it an active system. They're at least gonna pipe it in so that it's there. And then like he was saying in that video, illustrating that radon's gonna naturally move towards the path of least resistance. Again, I feel like the program, you'd have to decide on it, what their standards are for radon mitigation. Does that jive with?
So if you're talking about the local green building council,
I am.
yeah, so, we're talking about LEED certification,
Mm.
right? Okay. So with regard to the standards that they have in the checklist, one of the checklist items is that you have to test the home for radon.
Right.
Just to give you a local problem that occurred is that, you gotta make sure you test the proper floor. In real estate, we deem living space as heated square footage. However, in radon testing, it is the lowest level in which you reside, has nothing to do with heated square footage. Okay, there was a home that wanted LEED certification. The builder tested on the main floor, which was the lowest that was heated square footage. It ended up complicating things, became sort of a dispute because the basement was used as a family room, right? Because of the way that green-built home or LEED certified home could manage its internal temperatures, right? So just a heads up on that. But you don't need a mitigation system, to my knowledge, for LEED certification. You only need to test for it, but I would call the office to make sure.
Yeah, and I feel like also the kind of the logic of that is, right, so no matter how the home is built, radon can be a problem, right? So with greenbelt, so it's right, so it's like, no matter how you build the home, it could be a problem. So I agree that I feel like it's the requirement that, okay, once the home is built, then you need to make sure it's not an issue and have it mitigated. But again, that's a great point on the testing, especially as real estate professionals, making sure the test is being performed in the correct location, right? So the lowest occupiable level and towards the center. And then you also noticed he did not put the test on the floor, right? So you want it elevated, and they come with instructions. So again, just making sure, that's why all of ours are placed on a tripod. They should never really be close to the floor, within a few feet of the floor. So making sure that the proper protocol is utilized, and making sure they're professional grade machines. Important. Yes.
Sorry, last question.
I love the questions. This is thrilling.
Well, I'm just wondering, I've never heard of multiple mitigation systems in one home, but I'm just saying, like, you have a very giant home. Do
Yeah.
you need to have multiple, or is one still efficient?
You need multiple, which I think I do have a graphic at some point, but I know I appreciate the participation and it helps break it up. So we'll definitely address that. There are dual section systems. There are different types of systems. So we'll definitely get into that in a minute. How do you fix a home? Well, I'm glad you asked. So how can I fix elevated levels in my home? So you can install radon mitigation systems to reduce radon levels by preventing it from entering the living space. Like he was saying in the video, kind of offering a path of least resistance. So the most common system would be a standard depressurization system, sub-slab, sub-pit, sub-membrane. So we'll go over that first. So this is kind of the systems you guys are most familiar with. You probably have seen the ones that are in a basement or in a closed space. So again, depressurization. So what happens is we, as radon professionals, definitely need to do a site evaluation and kind of take in the entire space of the home, right? But let's assume it's 1,000 square feet or less, finished basement, where you're usually going to make that penetration towards the exterior of the home. And again, another reason why getting a professional quote is important is because there are other things that come into play. So what actually happens is they core drill into the floor of the home or into the slab, and we're going to excavate a minimum 5 gallons of soil. So imagine a Lowe's 5-gallon bucket. It's the easiest way to measure it, because that's right, that's going to kind of create that vacuum we need. So in homes that are newer, so usually 70s or 80s or newer, should have been built with kind of a gravel substrate, right? So imagine we create this big hole. We're essentially going to suck from the hole, which is going to pull from underneath the home, right? So it's displacing all of that air that has potential radon in it and venting it out to the exterior. So the complications, like I said, if it was pre-70s, 80s, we might run into a stubborn soil like clay or something like that. So that's why we always want to test after the fact. Sometimes these, our systems are pretty tried and true, but again, there may be complications. So this is one where they tie it into a sump pump system. Also, it's important if we don't tie in the sump pump, we may need to seal the sump pump to make sure there's no penetrations. Same with sealing cracks and whatnot. We will always evaluate if we feel we need to seal the cracks. And we can also test. So what we'll do is we'll kind of drill a pilot hole opposite end of the suction point that we choose and make sure that we're getting sufficient air movement, right? That, because again, we can't see what's under the slab. So that's the most common. And again, so this one's actually venting through the attic, but most commonly you guys have probably seen it where we're going to kind of immediately jet out and make sure that it's vented properly. There are requirements. Most of the time we're going to go above the roof line, but we do have requirements to stay away from openings, windows, penetration, stuff like that. And we have, again, if it's interior, you know, an unfinished basement, it's usually pretty much exposed. But if it's interior, we do have some ways we can conceal it. And you mentioned larger. So sometimes you do have to do dual systems, or there's systems with multiple slabs, you know, multiple elevations. We are going to want to address each kind of pocket, right? So if it's kind of a multi-level home, we're going to have to put one on each level. So sometimes we can tie them together in a dual system. It just depends on the path of travel, but sometimes you have to put two independent systems on the sides of the home if it's larger. And then crawl space. Again, crawl spaces do have to have what I call a light encapsulation. It doesn't have to be a true moisture encapsulation. We do have to put down essentially a membrane, because think, if you're kind of just sucking from the expanse of the crawl space, it's not really effective, right? So we need to put down that membrane, make sure it's sealed to trap that radon, and then we're going to put a system that lays below the membrane, and same. Then it's going to have the traditional depressurization system that runs out the exterior. But again, so if this house, for example, has a basement and a crawl space, both need to be treated. Sometimes we can tie them together with a dual system. Sometimes they need to be separate.
So if there's a crack in the subfloor of the basement, won't that get rid of the pressurization?
Yeah, so we have to seal the cracks.
Okay.
Right. But if there's like carpet or something, like I said, we're going to do our best. We're going to put in the initial system. That's why we're always going to retest. There are occasions where we have to come back and say it's not performing. Let's troubleshoot and figure out. Maybe we have to put a second system. Sometimes we have to put an upgraded fan if they're older and that is beneficial, or if the space is larger, or if it's over 12.0, right? So making sure that when you're getting radon system quotes, that someone's putting their eyes on it, or at least looking at floor plans, pulling MLS data, making sure it's accurate, because there are definitely multiple configurations we can see. And then on this one, there's a little fun picture of an exterior aesthetic package. Some people don't like the fan, so they put the cover on it. I was like, that's better. Or a lot of times lately people, you know, it's not the most attractive thing in the world, but like in the earlier slide, we put one, we do a couple log cabins, and we'll paint it brown or whatever it needs to be to match the exterior. So we try our best to make them keep WNC beautiful, but we'd like to keep it beautiful and cancer free. So again, talking about depressurization. So it's going to be attached to under the slab, creating that path of least resistance. So this is what it looks like on the exterior. That's that fan that's mounted on the exterior. And this is that stack he was pointing out that's going to be on the interior. What I tell real estate professionals, or anyone, right? We had a property manager who noticed one wasn't working, that you gauge if the liquid levels are not level, right? If it's a jar, that generally means it's working, right? It has movement in the system, and it's drawing that out. If it's level, you know, top to top, that usually means it's not working. So you guys as real estate professionals, like, that's where I leave it, right? You look at it and you're like, oh, it's uneven, we're good, it's working. Not that I still want to recommend a test, but that's a really good way to know and see if the system's working or not. And that's really all it's good for. Every time someone sees it, they're like, what's the radon level? I was like, I don't know. That doesn't tell you. You got to get a radon test. That's just telling you that the system is functioning. But someone mentioned, you know, fans get old, they don't work as well. They get noisy. We also have noise reduction kind of mufflers you can put on them. So again, lots of options, no reason not to invest in a mitigation system. So again, so this was the test I was mentioning to you guys. We have micromanometers, or we can actually use kind of a smoke test, which is a really cool way to do it. We can drill a pilot hole, and there's like, they call them smoke pens, but create smoke, and then you want to make sure it's getting pulled through the slab up the system. So again, the micromanometer he's holding there would also tell you the suction, or we'll use a vacuum system to make sure that we are achieving that air movement underneath the slab. So again, here's that extraction point kind of illustration. If you follow us on Instagram, I share these all the time because it's probably one of the most exciting parts of the job. Again, they're core drilling into the slab, removing at minimum 5 gallons in a 5-gallon bucket. And then when the pipe does go into penetration, it is sealed because obviously you want to make sure that's sealed to ensure communication under the slab and make sure that it's sealed and extracting. And again, like I mentioned, sealing entry points, to Jason, to your question, right? We want to make sure we're sealing any major cracks in the concrete, we're sealing the penetration we made, or if there's a sump pump, the sump pump may need to be covered. Or like the other day, I saw a sump pump that had been framed out in a different penetration. So making sure all the entry points are sealed. And again, this is why it's really important to have professional quoting your system, because often these things will get missed and then your system's not working efficiently. So again, beautiful crawl spaces we have here in Western North Carolina, right? So just a minor illustration of an unencapsulated crawl space versus encapsulated. We make it nice and pretty. You can go hang out down there. It's really cool and calm and quiet. As home inspectors, sometimes we often joke we'll go hide in the crawl space if it's nice. So here's some more examples of those crawl space systems, right? We want to make sure they're sealed tight so that we're trapping that air and making sure it's displaced appropriately.
How are your materials different from like the mold encapsulation?
So it just depends. So we at minimum are going to use a 6 mil vapor barrier. Sometimes some of the more advanced mitigation or moisture systems could have a 20 mil. But at minimum, we want to use the 20, and we can tie in. So if someone's already had an encapsulation with the 20 mil, we can just add the radon mitigation system to that. But at minimum for radon, we want to use the 6 mil, but we can tie into an actual more advanced moisture mitigation system. So again, potential eyesore, but I would complain that, lung cancer is probably more problematic than your eyesore. But again, have aesthetic options. We have the covers. Like I said, we have the mufflers. If the sound is an issue, don't be that guy I talked about who just unplugged it because it was loud. Or we have some where we painted the exterior systems. So lots of options there. Or installing the fans in the attic space. This is not my preferred method. Again, if it's the path of least resistance, we'll take it. But obviously making roof penetrations is not ideal. So we try and do what we can to kind of have a path of least resistance. Also, anytime we quote a system, we will give you a really beautiful paint illustration of where we propose the pipe to go. So kind of manage expectations and make sure everyone's aware of what it's going to look like. And again, wanting to make sure we're venting above the roof line per approved standards. And again, here's that cover that's supposed to be more aesthetically pleasing than the fan, but you choose, it's your house. But we can provide the covers. And this sometimes also, can mitigate noise or kind of weathering effects and stuff and protect the system too. So can I just seal cracks in the floors or open the windows? I mean, I guess you can, but I don't know if I recommend it. So yeah, sealing visible cracks is the most basic part of radon mitigation approaches, but that alone will not mitigate your radon. Same, opening doors and windows will dilute it, but sometimes it's not effective, and it's definitely not a practical long-term solution to your radon mitigation needs. So what if I'm buying or selling our house? Or what if I'm a wonderful steward of the real estate process, the licensed real estate agent, right? Radon tests are often part of a real estate transaction. Again, I love the statistic that only about 12% of the homes have been tested since 2010, right? Chances are there may have never been a radon test on the property that's changing hands. So you want to make sure your buyer is educated and they know what they're getting into. So definitely recommending radon tests as part of the buyer side of the transaction. Or like I said, I highly, highly, highly recommend them to all selling parties because it's going to come up. The buyer is going to get a radon test. It's going to come up. And often, so for example, for us as a radon and mitigation company, at any given time, we're 4 to 6 weeks out for installation, right? So you want to make sure you have time and you can be prudent and get these things taken care of. And you don't want to be in a pinch where you've got to hire, truck in the truck to come do your radon mitigation system because you need it before close. Yes.
So I know like some people who work in like the medical field and they work in hospitals, they're already exposed to a lot of, radiation or if I'm working with someone like that, or if I'm working with somebody who's predisposed to cancer, I've noticed earlier, those 4.0 picocuries,
Yes.
You're still being exposed to small levels of this stuff. If I'm working with someone like that, can I safely tell them, you're gonna be okay if this mitigation system is up and running? Or should I maybe steer them away from a house with a mitigation system if they're exposed to this stuff on a regular basis?
I definitely think it's safe if there's mitigation. Like I said, it's treatable. I don't feel like there's any property that's not treatable. I'm not sure if we include it in the slides, but there are also efforts if somebody is susceptible or sensitive. So a mitigation system, a passive or a depressurization system is going to get it. Like I said, we want it 2.0 or lower, but there are also ventilation systems that can work with it. So our company has like an air filtration system. So these are literally air filters that go on your HVAC and can filter out the radon particles. So if someone's particularly concerned, you can kind of step it up in that regard. But I wouldn't necessarily ever say any house is unmanageable for somebody with exposure.
I hope that made sense.
Yeah, no, it did.
Sorry, I want to jump in with just two things.
Okay.
Number one, chances are that 15% of lung cancer is caused by radon, but that number is probably much higher because when people die of lung cancer, they don't always know what was the cause. And I mean, I've lost two friends in the Asheville area to lung cancer, and neither one of them, never smoked, healthy outdoor people, so it's probably much higher than that. To get to what you were commenting about, you don't want to confuse radon with radiation.
Right, that's what I was kind of confused about.
Yeah, the radiation is, those are particle waves.
Right.
And radon is a gas. So I kind of similar names, but you don't want to intermingle those two.
Yeah, great point. But I will say actually as radon mitigation professionals, so for example, it's not as prevalent here because our levels aren't as high, but in some places where it's a lot higher, like the Northeast, radon mitigation installers have exposure limits, right? They have to track the exposure because in those, if every day they're mitigating a system that's a 200, their exposure is constantly 200, right? So in that regard, it does have to be measured so that we are in compliance with standards to keep their exposure underneath. So I guess if they're in radon, but exactly, radon and radiation aren't the same.
I mean, I was just thinking like, well, I mean, it causes cellular DNA damage. So if
Yeah.
they're exposed to that levels already in their job, or if they have genetic predispositions, I was wondering if that could like max them out, where they could be getting, cancer.
Yeah, and that's a great question. Yes.
Okay, so not from a scientific standpoint, from a realtor standpoint, code of ethics and licensing law, you have no opinion on whether it's safe or not. Okay.
Correct.
You give it to her, so she has the liability. They're not saying,
Yeah.
that's, you got it. So
yes.
You're not an expert on anything other than what your real estate license says you're an expert on, which ain't much.
Sustaining land costs.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. Philip, did you have something to add?
So just a couple of clarifications. So
Yes.
radon is in fact radiation. It's an alpha particle. So.
Well, then I stand corrected.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Radiation protection. Secondly is in terms of what you're saying, totally agree with David.
Yes.
Don't put yourself in liability, but to recognize your question, and that is, so a level of 2.0 picoperids per liter for an ever smoker, somebody who's smoked 100 cigarettes or more ever in their life, their risk goes to 32 out of 1,000. For a never smoker, it's 7 out of 1,000. So you go from 7 out of 1,000, 32 out of 1,000, 2.0. Okay. So every level of radon has a risk associated with it. And people who are genetically more susceptible to radon, as you're talking about. But I would always, what I do is I always say, talk to your oncologist. So if they had cancer, for example, or talk to your family practice physician, do not put yourself in that place of making a decision. Even I wouldn't do that.
I love that. And I agree with what David was saying. It's like, I'm arming you with all this knowledge, not that you ever need to recite all this to your client, but kind of internalizing it so you can give them kind of the base knowledge. Again, refer them to professionals, oncologists, if that's the case. So I didn't realize we're already at 103, so I'm going to kind of zip through this. But I talked to you guys about building new homes. Like I said, the systems can be roughed in, and then you would want to test the home once it's built in its final condition to determine if we need to add that fan or need to expand on the radon mitigation system. Because like I said, even if it was built with a single point, it could be up from there. We are actually a non-regulated state or a non-licensed state for radon, so make sure the radon professionals you're working with are certified. We carry an NRPP certification. That would be a kind of a minimum standard, in my opinion, for installers. So making sure they're qualified to be doing what they're doing. So again, non-regulated states, making sure they carry certifications, and ask about their experience and what kind of protocols they use. We're gonna go by ANSI standards. And again, testing protocols, making sure we're verifying that it was maintained closed conditions, 48-hour minimum test. Conditions for testing for you guys, like I said, as real estate professionals, just making sure, keeping your eyes on this, because I've had real estate professionals who are like, I went and popped by the house yesterday because I need to measure for the couch and all the windows are open. Great, demand a retest. So making sure all windows and doors stay closed at all time. Any whole house fans are off. Again, normal use, right? So no excess use of ovens, fans, and stuff like that. But again, just trying to mimic normal living conditions. HVAC can run normally. And again, having the location of the test determined by a real estate or a testing professional is really important. So that's it, guys. That was my spiel on radon in almost an hour. Yes, question.
Foundations, like no basement, does it make a difference?
I mean, it's still same rules apply, right? Radon can still enter through a slab. I mean, it is essentially kind of a basement, but it's not sub basement. But yeah, same concern, same risks, same systems, right? So we're going to have that system. And again, if it is a finished basement or if it is the finished home, we're going to try and utilize like a utility closet or something, or like some sort of closet to conceal the system. But definitely same concern still applies.
So if I go to test my house, then where should I put it? Like the testing kit?
So it's like the most central location. If it's a single level, is that what you're talking about? Single slab?
Well,
you should call Allied Home Inspection, and they would love to come to your house and analyze the entire floor plan.
so we have so the living room is like 25 feet high, and then we have 2 bedrooms upstairs, and then the main living is
lowest living level.
Yeah.
Lowest level.
Lowest level.
Yeah. So if it's too
closet.
No, I just central. Like I put it. Like I said, in the living room or on the mantle or somewhere central, lowest living level, central to the home. Philip, any other fact checks? I really appreciate your input.
Just to say, I have classes that the North Carolina Board of Realtors is hosting. There's 4 of them this year. They're online. They're totally free because I'm a state employee. So they're just posting for no fee. The things that I would just remark on is that there's new data since one of your slides. And that is, please do not use the zone map that you have, which is the red, orange, and yellow map.
Okay.
That is early 90s data, and we have data that shows that 90 of the 100 counties in North Carolina.
Where can that be found?
It's on our website. It's on our sheet that I'm giving.
Okay.
And then lastly is that my assessment or our assessment of the data that's been used in the past is shown that Wilkes County data, the 3200, was a water test that was not an air test. So that's been removed from our data set.
Okay.
If you email me, I can give you specific documents for any county in North Carolina. So what you're seeing on this sheet is just my attempt at a snapshot to show you what's available. But if you go scroll up a little bit down to the top, and the right hand side says brochures, and scroll a little bit. I'm sorry, down. On the right, brochures and resources. So on that page is every bit of our fact sheets. People want to know about children. They're 2 times more susceptible to adults. People want to know about their pets, and so on and so forth. The county documents are down a little further. So
okay.
Click on the county and you can get a specific recommendation for your county.
Really cool. And you guys saw those real estate resources. So again, at minimum, presenting your clients with, like I said, the impartial data, right, from a professional, from an established government agency is fantastic. So again, thank you guys for your time. Thank you, Philip, for being here. And I so appreciate you guys.